Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sustainability and the Future of Luxury Retail with Marie-Claire Daveu, Deborah Weinswig, and Mary Driscoll. We'll now turn it over to Deborah Weinswig, CEO and founder of Coresight Research.
Thanks, Drew. Good morning and welcome to the Future of Sustainability and Luxury. I'm your co-host, Deborah Weinswig, CEO and founder of Coresight Research, and I'm joined by my co-host, Marie Driscoll, Managing Director of Luxury at Coresight. I'm also joined today by Marie-Claire, who's the Chief Sustainability Officer and Head of International Affairs for Kering. Today, we are going to discuss the future of sustainability, the new normal in luxury retail, and the importance of diversity and inclusion. Coresight has hosted over 50 digital events since March 1st. Coresight researches the topics of tomorrow with impact for today, and we have been advising our retail, technology, and real estate clients in this unique environment. This Future of platform is one to provide insights to the industry from thought leaders like Marie-Claire. We are honored to introduce Marie-Claire, who has a deep background in all things retail and consumer. She is the Chief Sustainability Officer, otherwise known as the CSO at Kering, the global luxury group that manages Gucci, Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, Balenciaga, Brioni, and many more. Really the stuff that dreams are made of. In addition to fashion and luxury leather goods, Kering is also home to many notable fine jewelry houses. Marie-Claire has had a stellar career in sustainability, beginning in government service in the Cabinet of the Prime Minister, moving to the Office of Minister of Ecology and Sustainability, and then to the business world at a drug company, Sanofi Aventis Group. At Kering, Marie-Claire sets a sustainability strategy, a tall order, and objectives and implements best practices within the group and the brand houses Maison. She has been pivotal, along with Kering CEO, François-Henri Pinault, in raising awareness on the global bar of sustainability. We couldn't have a more perfect guest join us today to discuss fashion and sustainable luxury. For those in the audience, thanks for joining us, and please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen if you would like to ask a question during the call. And if you would like an opportunity to watch this webinar again, please visit Coresight Events for a video and transcript. So let's kick things off. First of all, Marie-Claire, thank you so much for joining us today.
So, hi everyone, and thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Thank you. So I think let's just kick things off with the basics. How do you define sustainable luxury?
So sustainable luxury, for me, sustainability and luxury goes hand in hand, because when we are speaking about sustainable luxury, it's about how you pay attention to have the best savoir-faire, the best heritage, and also the fact that you pay attention to people and to the planet from the raw materials until the end of life of your products. So it's a huge topic.
So Marie-Claire, sorry, Marie here. You set your Vision 2025 3 years ago in 2017. Your goal was to reduce your ecological footprint by about 40%. Tell us how you're tracking that, how you're measuring it, because and what categories did you start in? Was it leather, gold?
Alors, as you mentioned, we decided to have a new step in our approach and in our journey for sustainability in 2017, and we defined our strategy for 2025. But it was not the starting point of our sustainability journey, because many years ago, François-Henri Pinault decided to put sustainability at the heart of our strategy, convinced by the fact that sustainability is good for business, but it's also very important for ethics reasons. And to answer your point, we have decided to have very clear targets with a specific calendar. So the 40% for the environmental footprint, but also to reduce by 50% our greenhouse gas emission, or to have, for example, the full traceability for our raw materials. And thanks to a specific tool we created now a few years ago, our environmental profit and loss account, we are able to measure our environmental footprint every year. And we didn't start by leather or by cashmere or by wool. Depending on the raw material used by the brand, we work for all on all the raw materials. So it's also takes the example between Gucci and Boucheron. If they want to achieve the 40% of reduction, Gucci will work on leather and Boucheron will work on gold. So it's really depending on the brands. And so that's why also link with our strategy, we define an action plan for every brand to be sure that we will be able to reach our targets.
Marie-Claire, having the action plan is obviously incredibly important so that what you're saying that you're going to do is what you do at the time that you're going to do it. Along those lines, can you talk about the EP&L results for 2019? Are you happy with those? And if not, where do you think there's the most room for improvement?
So I don't know if our audience today is familiar with the EP&L. So perhaps in 2 words, it's a tool that we put in place a few years ago, really to measure our environmental footprint, not only in our own operations, but also in entire supply chain until tier 4. So it means cattle farming, cotton farming. And what is very interesting with the EP&L, we give a monetary value to our environmental footprint. And it's true that every year we publish our results because we think that transparency is key when you are on sustainability and of course on the environmental side. So for example, a good thing with our last EP&L results, we were able to reduce by 14%, 1/4, by intensity between 2018 and 2019. And we were also able to reduce by 29%, so 29% since 2015. So you see, I would like to say that we are on track, but we have to remain quite humble because to be able to reach our final target, the 40% mentioned by Marie previously, you can understand that we have to continue to push a lot the topic and we have a lot of work to do. And only perhaps one thing, if we want really to reach our targets, we need also to find disruptive innovations to support us to implement concrete action linked with the raw materials or linked with the processes.
So Marie-Claire, one of the things that you really did as part of Kering was to elevate the topic of sustainability in the luxury and in the consumer's mindset, insofar as you've open sourced what you've done so that other retailers and brands can participate and also evolve more sustainable practices. Can you talk about how important it is? Like, you may be a leader, but Kering can't do this alone.
Alors, it's really linked with the philosophy. We don't have so much time really to go into detail, but when I was saying that François-Henri is convinced by sustainability, from the starting point, it's also convinced that if we want to change the paradigm and to tackle the most important issue of our century, climate change, loss of biodiversity, resource scarcity, even if Kering is a big group with a big size, we are not able to change the paradigm alone. So that's why the collective approach is quite key. And so that's why not only for the EP&L, but for all the best practices we have in the group, we open source to be sure also that other group competitors can really implement. And perhaps also based on this philosophy, that's why last year, the President Macron gave a specific mission to François-Henri Pinault to create a coalition in our industry to be sure that with a collective approach and not only with a luxury company, we will be able really to change on the ground. And with the Fashion Pact, you know, now we have over 250 brands. It represents 35% by volume. So it's a kind also of tipping point where you can change concretely and operationally the things on the ground.
Well, thank you, Kering, for taking the lead.
Yeah, no, it's really impressive. And Marie-Claire, you talked about this idea of kind of the convincing of François-Henri. back in 2015, what was the, kind of, because some companies are still needing to be convinced. So what was the tipping point that really caused Kering to put this at the, if you will, the front of the line in terms of important initiatives?
Because again, I think at the beginning it was a personal conviction of François-Henri Pinault. Now for the companies which are not convinced, I think what it's important is to listen our clients, our consumer. Above all, the Gen Z and the millennials, they are very, very sensitive about this topic, and they are asking many, many questions. So it's one way to convince people. The second way, and I think it's very quite interesting, it started 2 years, 3 years ago, the financial community and also the financial analysts for listed companies, they are asking more and more questions also linked to sustainability. Even if they don't use the word sustainability, they will ask you questions about traceability, about animal welfare, about your impact on ecosystem, nature. And it's a way also to show that how much it's important. And last but not the least, it's also when you look at what is happening on the regulation point of view, the regulation is more and more demanding all over the world. So that's why I think for me, for a company, sustainability, and each time I speak sustainability for the social side and the environmental side, it's not at all an option, it's really a necessity. And when you are in luxury, because you set the trends, I think it's more a duty.
So, we think that sustainability is important across culture, across fashion. As we entered 2020 this year at Coresight, we came out with a sustainability framework, Encore. And then with the, and we did this, Deborah, because we heard consumers asking for it. We heard consumers, employees, and investors. To your point, and you spoke about going on an investor show last year. So, but when COVID hit, it seemed like the focus on sustainability got pushed to the side. So what happened internally at Kering and with COVID? Did anything happen? Have you renewed your efforts, or and what do you think has happened with the consumer in general regarding their focus on sustainability?
Alors, if we are making the link between the current situation and the crisis of the COVID-19, and again, it's not finished, okay, and we don't know what will happen in the next months. The first thing, and if we can say in this way, a positive impact of this huge crisis is the fact that now I think the crisis has raised awareness about the link between the risk of pandemic and epidemia if you destroy the biodiversity, if you destroy the nature, because you have quite very important numbers of articles which are making the link between epidemia and the destruction of nature, ecosystem, and biodiversity. So it's one thing. After operationally for us, I think it encourages us to go quickly to implement our targets and to reach fast as possible our objective. So if we can anticipate the 2025 for some targets, for some objective, it will be something that we would like really to obtain and we like to put in place. After, as you know, when we are speaking about sustainability, biodiversity, climate change, it's a long journey. You can't change everything overnight, but I think what it's important with the crisis, people are making the link between nature, climate change, and what does it mean for their health. So I think also, I don't have yet any evidence or any survey, but I have the feeling that not only for luxury, not only for the textile industry, people will ask again more and more questions, and they will expect from the group and from the brands to take their responsibility.
Marie-Claire, I think that there's something here that's incredibly important. Sitting in many boardrooms at the end of 2019, sustainability was in the top kind of 100 of things to do, but the idea was that there was a cost associated with it. And what we've seen kind of over the past 5.5 months is that there's this idea that sustainability can drive profitability. And we've started to see, both Marie and myself have seen a significant outreach in terms of interest in the topic, but in lines of driving not only the top line, but also the bottom line. What are you seeing in regards to that?
Alors, I think, and I have always the same answer, because when we are speaking about sustainability, for many people, as you mentioned, it's a cost. And for us, from the standpoint, so not linked with the crisis, or not linked with 2019, or not linked with what happened with the World Economic Forum, where people were speaking a lot about sustainability. At Kering, that we have been always convinced that sustainability is an investment. And sometimes it could help us to reduce costs. Take the example of energy. If you reduce your consumption of energy, or if you reduce your consumption of water, at the end of the day, you can earn some money. But of course, what you have to accept is the fact that sometimes for some project like renewable energy or other things, you have to admit that the payback won't be a traditional payback. So in comparison to have a payback in the next 2 years or 3 years, you have to wait 5 years. But at the end of the day, it will be something that bring you some huge benefits. And after, I think that what is really changing a lot is the fact that people are understanding, again, there is no option. And for a company who want to continue to do its own business for the next following years, if you don't put sustainability in your strategy, you will have huge problems. So I think also the mindset is changing. And of course, with the money you earn, for example, with the reduction of water or energy, you can invest in research, in innovation to find something else. So that's why for me, it's not a cost, it's an investment.
Absolutely.
Right, looking at it from the other side. Well, just to finish off our questions, I know that animal welfare is especially important to you, biodiversity. Do you want to touch on that?
Yes, we put also in our strategy in 2017 the fact that animal welfare was a very important topic, with the feeling that also because we were in luxury, we have this kind of specific responsibility to move the industry. And so that's why 2 years ago, we wrote what we call our Kering standards for animal welfare. And we try really to do the rollout and to implement them. And same approach, we open source to be sure that all the company can use them and can try to implement. After biodiversity, and I'm sure I am not the only one in the audience, you know that 2021 will be the year of biodiversity. So it's really important to take care of it.
Great. So I'll kick off. Thank you so much. I'll kick off. We have many questions from the audience. So Marie and I will have to be picky on what ones we choose. But why don't we kick it off with, which are the 3 most important drivers of sustainability in the end-to-end product customer journey?
So in the customer journey, perhaps the most important thing, it's about traceability. Okay, so really to know where the raw materials are coming from. We see also that the question from the customer are also of what the products are becoming after the first use. So it's about how they can resell the product, how we can do upcycling with the product. And perhaps also what is very important, I think it's to ask a question in the boutique, because you know it's also a way to stimulate the conversation with the brands.
So we have a question here about your views on secondhand goods and the sustainability of that recycling. What's your opinion, or what's Kering's opinion?
Alors, first, I think on the sustainability point of view, the first thing you have to do, it's really to work on your supply chain. So if you want really to reduce your impact, it's very key to focus on this. After, of course, our luxury products are long-lasting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the second hand, it's also a good solution. At the level of Kering, all our brands, they are thinking about this, but the decisions are really made at the level of the brands. But of course, it's something very also interesting to encourage. At the same time for environmental reasons, but also for social reasons. But again, it's not because you are doing the second hand that you don't have to work on the way of production, so processes and raw materials.
This next question is one I have as well. So I'm interested in knowing Marie-Claire's view of secondhand goods, and are they sustainable?
As I told you, I think in the journey of sustainability, second-hand goods are interesting. Something also that is very interesting, but we are at the beginning, it's also to work on not only recycling, but upcycling. So with upcycling, you can create a second life to your product. So you can do, I will say, some things that a furniture with luxury goods. So it's very interesting to think. You know, we have many solutions, but we are at the beginning. And what will be the challenge? It's really to put at scale all these kind of innovative solutions. So yes, for second hands, and yes, for upcycling.
So can you share with the audience what the best tools are for measuring changes in your own sustainable efforts?
But I think for us, what we encourage, it's really on the environmental side to use the EPNL, because I think if you want really to put in place a strong policy on the environmental side, you have to measure. It's like on the financial side. If you don't have KPI, you don't measure your financial results, you are not able to drive your business. So for the environmental side, it's the same thing. And after, for the social side, it's also to put in place KPIs, target, and really to follow. So the main message is really you have to put in place quantitative KPIs, like we are doing for the financial side. And you know, in the governance approach inside Kering, we have the business review, but we have also sustainable review. So it's also to send the message that they are at the same level.
Right, and you spoke earlier before about how your environmental impact actually decreased last year, and yes, that was in tandem with like a double-digit revenue increase. So,
yes, so that's why we are speaking by intensity, and that's why also at the beginning you have to put in place a lot of efforts to be able to build, for example, for cashmere, for wool, or for leather, a sustainable supply chain. But after, when you have put in place this kind of supply chain, you can put at scale. So what is difficult, it's at the beginning to start. And after, it's really to do the rollout. I don't say that the rollout, it's easy, but what is difficult, it's really to put in place, because when you put in place a new sustainable raw material supply chain, you have also to work with the local communities, with the NGOs, to be sure that the quality of your raw material is perfect, so it could be embedded in your production, and it will be, and our designer will be happy, because we have to work, of course, very closely with the designer and the design team. They are the boss.
Exactly. So along those lines, in terms of this, kind of amazing platform and sharing insights across not only the group, but with others, have you seen other companies adopt the EPNL?
Yes. Alors, so today, all over the world, more than 150 brands, so 150 brands or a group, have already implemented an EPNL. Okay. Other brands or group are putting in place, I will say, the organization to use EPNL. After what is sometimes making a difference, some companies are using an EPNL, but they don't disclose externally the results. So you have companies which are using it without disclosing their results. But people are interested after, so that's why we try really to push this tool, because based on our experience, we think that it's quite interesting. And what we did also for students and people who are in a design school or a fashion school, we put in place an app called My EPNL, really to raise awareness and to show them how it's important to measure their environmental footprint, and really to give an order of magnitude between using a classical, a conventional cotton and an organic cotton. So it's also a way to raise awareness from the beginning for our new generation of designers or people who will work in the fashion industry.
Well, the really interesting thing there is, right, retail can be incredibly competitive, but we have seen so many retailers come together around sustainability. And I think it's still very early, but it may translate into more coordination and collaboration going forward as well.
Fully agree. And as we said, collaboration, transparency are really key when you are in sustainability. What is also interesting when you are in a textile industry, it's not only to work with your own sector, but also to work with other sectors. I give you a concrete example. Leather, it's a byproduct, it's a co-product of the food industry. So if you want really to reduce your environmental footprint, you at the level of the cattle farming, you need to work closely with the food industry. So it's not only between our sector, it's really also with other sectors.
So we have a question about Kering's plans for smart textile waste recycling.
Alors, what I can share with you, we have a quite important number of pilot projects, okay? Not only again on recycling, but also on upcycling. You can understand that I trust a lot on the upcycling, because I think that, as I told you, it gives a second life, not only to the product, but with the waste, you can do the same thing. We have to be honest, we are at the beginning. We are working closely with some startups, and I'm quite confident. So I don't know, in the next 2 years, next 3 years, we can have very interesting project to implement based on leather waste, but also on a fabric waste. But again, it's at the beginning, and because we are in luxury, we have always to pay attention to the highest standard of the quality.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up with one last question, and we'll close it out. But this one actually really speaks to me, and whoever asked it, thank you so much. So regarding tipping points, are there 1 or 2 major steps that if a huge majority of fashion manufacturers adopted, it could make a significant impact or drive widespread adoption of sustainable fashion? I'm wondering if there is a groundswell movement that consumers could drive.
You know, I have well, if we answer the question with the point of view of the consumer, I think the best way to push and to drive is to ask questions about which kind of raw materials, the traceability, where the production has been made. If you are speaking on a point of view of a company, is really to be aligned at what we call the science-based target on climate change, on biodiversity, again, really to identify targets and objectives which are linked with the science. Because company, we are not scientific people. So to be sure that we are aligned with the Paris Agreement, or we are aligned also based on what the COP15 will decide next year on biodiversity, it's really important to have this kind of science-based target. But for me, you know, customers, clients have a lot of power, because if they are asking questions inside the boutique, if they are looking about what the social media are saying, if they challenge the brands, I can tell you that they have a huge power. Beyond clients, you have citizens, so they have a lot of power.
Very, very well said. Well, Marie-Claire, I want to thank you so much. Marie and I really enjoyed having this conversation. And we also just want to thank Kering in terms of just the lead that the company has taken on this incredibly important topic. Thank you so much, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.